Welcome to Ruger Tech Tips. Today we're going to talk about how to reassemble the Ruger LC Carbine in 45 Auto. We've previously disassembled, cleaned, inspected, and lubricated this carbine, so it's ready to go back together now. You can see I have in front of me the disassembled parts of the carbine. I have no ammunition, I have an empty magazine, and I have my safety glasses. So I'm ready to begin. First thing we're going to do is we're going to turn this receiver upside down, and we're going to reinstall the spacer piece. There's a little cutout in the receiver that matches up to the spacer, and then we can set that down in and push it all the way forward. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up the front bolt. We're going to check that the orientation has this slot in the front and the keyway in the back. We're going to drop that down into the back of the receiver and just push it all the way forward until it stops. The next piece is the buffer and recoil spring assembly. That's going to slide into the receiver underneath the barrel, and it's going to sit in a little recess in that front bolt. We have to compress it a little bit in order to get it down and get it all the way flush with the bottom of the receiver. To install the rear bolt, first off we need to make sure the orientation matches with the ejection port lined up with the ejection port, of course, and the keyway in the front. We're going to, it's a two-handed operation. I'm going to have to pull the charging handle all the way to the rear. That way this keyway clears the back of the barrel. That is what the rear bolt is going to slide into. So it's going to just drop straight down into there and in the receiver. And then we can slowly let that forward now that those two pieces are joined. Okay. That completes the receiver. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reinstall the handguard. So, keeping the Picatinny rail orientation upwards, I'm going to just slide that on until it lines up with the receiver. I'm going to do the top and the bottom first, and I'm going to do that with my 1/8 inch Allen wrench. I'm going to install these 4 screws, top one, and I will snug that down nice and tight, and then the bottom one. Get the top and the bottom nice and snug, and then we can do the left and right. Okay, handguard is installed. Next thing we need to do before we put the fire control group on is we need to reinstall the stock. That has to be done in order. That's important. So this has a Picatinny rail on the back, and we're just going to latch the stock onto the Picatinny rail at the position where we're comfortable with the height of that stock, and then using our other Allen wrench, we're going to tighten that one screw. That's all that takes. So we'll tighten that down, and our stock is now attached. The last thing we need to do is reinstall the fire control group or the grip frame assembly, and that you can see there's a couple of things that need to line up. There's some 4 tabs, 2 in the front, 2 in the rear, that line up with some cuts in the receiver. So we're going to place those straight down over those cuts. Then we need to slide the grip frame assembly forward about 1/4 inch. That's really all that takes. Last thing is we're going to push the captured pin closed on the receiver, and that holds everything together. That completes the reassembly. The next thing that we'll do is a functions check with an empty magazine. What we're going to do is we're going to take our empty magazine, double check that it's empty. We're going to install it in the magazine well, make sure that it clicks and that it doesn't come out. That means it's captured by the magazine release. Then we're going to pull the bolt to the rear, and the bolt should be held back by the empty magazine. So that is working properly. Next we will release the empty magazine. That comes out properly, and we will put it on safe. We will close the bolt, which we can do just using the bolt handle or the bolt release. I will close the bolt with it on safe, and pointing in a safe direction, we'll pull the trigger. Because it's on safe, nothing should happen. Then we'll move it down into the fire position. We will pull the trigger all the way back to the rear and hold it to the rear. We hear a click as the hammer falls. We're now going to run the bolt manually, holding the trigger to the rear. And as we release the trigger, we should hear another click, which is the trigger resetting. And that worked properly. We can squeeze the trigger one last time, and that completes our functions check. Everything appears to be working correctly. So that is the reassembly and functions check of the Ruger LC Carbine. Thank you for watching this Ruger Tech Tip.